Hello and welcome to this wonderful presentation. I'm here with Anandhi Vivek Dhukaram. She is the founder of ESDA, and within ESDA, she's the Chief Responsible AI and Data Officer. She's focused on championing responsible AI initiatives and AI literacy efforts in multinational organizations and organizations of all sizes for that matter. She's super accomplished, PhD in computer science and MBA and all these wonderful credentials. I mean, she's just steeped in both academia and knowledge and industry. So it's such a pleasure to have you here, Anandhi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So shall I just kick off with the presentation today?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, now that we got a lot of regulations coming up, we can see the EU AI Act, and there was GDPR before that, and there is other AI policies and blueprints in the US. It's important that we think about how do we operationalize ethics and privacy beyond compliance. So if anybody is here listening to this, you can tell me what are the risks of non-compliance. Do you think penalty is a risk of non-compliance? Then type in A. If you think reputational harm is a risk of non-compliance, then type in B. Or lost opportunities, C, and then D for legal fees. Actually, risk of non-compliance means everything based on different regulations. So a bit about me. I started my career in the AI lab doing knowledge management system in 1999 in my university when I was doing my master's in computer science. Then I have been working in the IT industry for like 20 odd years. Once I did my, in 2010, I was working for Accenture. And during that time, I was involved in launching Barclays' first mobile banking app. And during that time, I figured out there was a lot of data we were able to access, as well as there's also needs from various stakeholders. So I was just thinking, like, why are we not thinking about people data for designing complex systems? So that led me to do my PhD in cognitive systems engineering at the University of Birmingham. And then I worked at the University of Cambridge, looking into what makes people happy and tracking people happiness and behavior. And then I came back to the industry, and since then I've been working for both the public sector as well as private sector. And during the last 5 to 6 years, I've been looking into research, strategy, and best practices for artificial intelligence. Especially my interest has been in looking into or dissecting the reasons for organizational failure with AI. That led me to set up my own consulting, ESTA, where I focus on AI literacy training as well as responsible AI practices to help organizations in sustainable transformation. So what I'm going to talk about today is the problems with AI or artificial intelligence. What are the regulations? Just to give you a basic idea about the regulations out there, as well as framework for operationalizing ethics and privacy. So the problem, we had Apple Card. So now that all technology companies collect various data, Apple was trying to come up with a card, and they partnershiped with Goldman Sachs. And once the card was released, applicants were subject to credit approval process. And Apple credit card accused of gender bias. So you can see a person in the Twitter saying Apple Card is such a sexist program. His wife and him filed joint tax returns. live in a community property state and have been married for a long time. Yet Apple's black box algorithm thinks I deserve 20 times the credit limit the wife does. So that's what the discrimination was. And the next thing also was the European Union. They did a big research on AI risks and failures. So they figured out there is increased risks to people in terms of safety and security because of AI monitoring people. And then there's violation to the fundamental rights and values. There's mistrust in AI slowdown adoption. So due to mistrust, there's there is slow adoption. So all these problems were due to many factors such as legal uncertainty and complexity in developing and using AI. There was also fragmented measures on how should I measure the impact, as well as there are no procedural frameworks to ensure and monitor compliance. So all these things lead to a lot of discrimination within the society we live in, and there is not equal opportunity for everybody. So do we really think that, so how do we approach this? So in order to overcome these risks, the EU AI Act, it came up with risk-based approach. This is one of the regulation that is now widely being looked at because it uses a risk-based approach. So depending on the risk that the AI system poses on the health, safety, and fundamental rights of a person, the applications or the systems are classified differently. So there's minimal risk, which means there's no risk to human. So that means there is no regulation compliance there. And then limited risk for chatbots or spam filters, like in email. So there is not much of a risk. So they are classed as limited risk. There's also high risk systems like biometric identification or medical devices where the system makes decision on behalf of clinicians. So they fall under high risk category. And there are unacceptable risks such as emotion recognition systems at work and education, or systems that manipulate behavior, or untargeted scraping of facial images. These are classed as unacceptable risk. So the EU AI Act is there to help organizations figure out what sort of risk you are creating with your application. And based on that, you have to undergo certain compliance procedures. If organizations do not comply with these risks, then organizations have got penalties. For example, 7.5 million or 1.5% turnover for misinformation if the organization supply incorrect or misleading information to authorities. And then you got 15 million or 3% turnover fine if there is any violation, or 13 million or 7% up to 7% turnover fine if there is a breach. So that is one kind of regulation. The next, which has been around for several years, is GDPR. So GDPR has got 7 principles. First is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, making sure that you abide to all these things for your data collection and transaction. And then you inform the users about the limitation of the data. So what is the purpose and what is the limitation? And also you make sure that you collect the minimum amount of data that is required for the AI application. Make sure that the data is accurate and current. And you also have to specify where you are storing the data and that it is secure and who is accountable for the data. So this is based on GDPR principles. So like the UAI Act, the GDPR has got fines of up to 4% of turnover. And if there's any breach, you need to notify appropriate agencies within 72 hours. And they enforce, like they suggest that you design privacy by design. So even the experts for UAI Act, they say like compliance needs to be in the design, development, and delivery. So it's not just an add-on feature. So we also have UAI ethics guidelines, which specifies the need to be respect for human autonomy, prevention of harm, fairness, and improving working conditions. So you have, I have given you just a few of the regulations. So when there are so many regulations, so how do we organizations, or how should organizations approach privacy ethics? How do they operationalize privacy and ethics? So there are companies out there which provide governance framework as well as guardrails for organizations to deliver systems. As well as most of these are like checklist activities. So, okay, if you are a provider, have you met Article 22 of the EUAI Act, and so on. So, checklist activities. So, when you are using some sort of guardrails or a checklist within the organization, what happens is that there's lack of empowerment. It's like you involving different people without actually knowing what they are trying to do or what they are trying to achieve. So it's like a blind man, touching the elephant and making his own assumption, like the ear as a leaf or maybe the tail as a rope. This is because people within the organization do not have an understanding about AI or what the AI is trying to do or what the organization is trying to do with the technology. So there is lack of empowerment within the organization. We all need to be asking fundamental questions, irrespective of what regulation we are going to comply with. We need to first of all think who designs what, for whom, and why. So no matter what you're trying to do, make sure you think about these questions. How do we empower the users of AI systems? How do we go beyond focusing on technological issues for societal problems? Is AI developed for the right reasons? And is the solution benefiting the right stakeholder? So what we do is we don't think about all these fundamental questions. We only think about what we want to develop in the sense like using AI. For example, when I was talking to healthcare experts, clinicians for a HIP outcome we want to develop with the data analytics. When we were discussing that with the clinicians, they were saying technologists most of the time say, where can I apply technology? They don't really think about how I can improve patient experience. And that's what is the gap between technology and what it's trying to achieve. So these are some of the fundamental questions we need to think about if we want to operationalize ethical policies. So talking about healthcare, so this is from my research. So currently, if you have an elderly person or if you know of any elderly person, we know of anybody who's about the age of 60 has got a high chance of having multiple chronic illness. For example, my dad, he had diabetes as well as heart disease. So you might see somebody else with heart disease, diabetes, as well as high blood pressure or whatever. But the way we design is we just think about diabetes and we think about solving diabetes by giving the patient an app. So imagine if you have a 60 plus year old, or if you are 60-year-old, and you can't rely on one app, which means to control your diabetes you need to have a separate app. For heart you need to have another app, and then for maybe high blood pressure you have another app. How cumbersome would that be? How um, how would somebody adopt so many different applications to control their health and wellness? So, for example, um, my research, I found out like healthcare system is a complex socio-technical system. By that, there are various actors in the sense of there's like doctors, nurses, practitioners, other allied practitioners, as well as patients, caregivers, and so many people involved in the care, as well as the legacy system, in which there are the test is in a different system. There's also patient records in different system, and there's various regulations as well. So it's a complex socio-technical system. So in order to just support a patient's cardiac decision making, for example, like, okay, why do I feel dizzy today? Let's say we want to support that decision making for cardiac patient. Why are we doing that? We want to improve self-awareness, reduce risk, and enhance shared decision making as well as manage information. So going back to supporting why do I feel dizzy today or whatever decision, you see it can be due to health, it can be due to side effects, it can be due to other patient history or allergic reaction or different problem, something. So there's various options. There's various options that could cause the sleep activity. There's so many other reasons that could lead to the patient feeling not good today. So, but what we do is we just think about, okay, exercise or diet or sleep separately, but they are all intertwined. That's why it's a complex socio-technical system. So one of the study when I was going through a paper, it said like we need to be repairing innovation. So repairing innovation, by that, experts advocate seeing AI beyond its potential and often theoretical possibilities, but centrally investigate whether AI addresses existing problems, exploring how and in what ways AI is integrated into existing processes, as well as how it disrupts them. So that's what I said, the fundamental questions. We need to be understanding or asking ourselves, what is the purpose of the AI? So what problem are we solving? Is there a need? So for them to repair innovation is to set new practices and possibilities that address the often unexpected changes caused by AI's disruption and integrate them into an existing professional context. So experts say there is a need to change the way fits AI is currently developed. So AI is currently developed. They often called implicitly to repair the guidance, process, and incentives that help make AI align with ethical frameworks. So this is what we need to be looking into. We need to have new guidance, processes, and incentives in place which will align AI with the ethical framework as well as with the business objectives and strategy, which we don't do because we think of AI like we start developing AI like as if we are doing any other software, which is not the case. So what do we need? We need a systematic, proactive perspective here. So instead of narrow product-specific AI guidance, ethical AI development need to be a systemic, proactive perspective that includes ethical considerations, which is the objectives, authors, and context, and focuses on industry applications. So if you're developing for healthcare, then you need to think about you need to focus on the healthcare applications, because healthcare is different from financial applications, which is different from retail. So everywhere you have different objectives, authors, and as actors and context. And ethically developing AI involves a complex interplay between AI, ethics, industry context, and multiple stakeholders. So, this is why we need a systematic, proactive perspective. So, how should organizations go about it? Okay, I've told you there's problem with ethical issues with AI, and that there are various regulations. But then, how do we operationalize ethics and privacy within the organization? So, what we do is from ESTA, we provide organizations with workshops which would help them to operationalize ethics and privacy. There is a series of workshops, but this workshop which I'm going to specify is something which you can do within your organization, and it is a starting point. So you can't expect, okay, I have this workshop, now that I had it, I have operationalized ethics and privacy. No, this is a start, remember. So this is like a stepping stone. So what we do is we start with 5 building blocks. The first one is the training. So in the EU AI Act, it says providers, deployers of AI systems shall take measures to ensure, to their best extent, a sufficient level of AI literacy of their staff and other persons dealing with the operation and use of AI systems on their behalf. So AI literacy is mandatory according to EU AI Act. And with the AI literacy, you can now imagine the slide where I showed you the elephant. Due to lack of empowerment, how people were imagining their own way of interpretation. So, without giving imaginations to people, you help them with AI literacy. By that, what we mean is we try to assess where your organization is with regards to AI, and we start from the leadership. We empower leaders with AI, give them information about what AI can do and cannot do, how other organizations have used AI, and what are the different use cases others are deploying, and the limitations of AI, and so forth. Depending on the organization's need, we provide AI literacy to empower leaders. We also engage different stakeholders within the literacy program and provide them with training and continuous learning. So this is the first one. So empowerment is the first stage. So once we empower, then we get in various stakeholders to identify the goals, or define the goals and objectives for them, what they want to use AI for, and who are the users and stakeholders they want to get involved. What is the strategic alignment? Where do they see AI to fit in? And what are the key performance metrics they want to use to measure the progress? So that's the second building block. So the second building block is defining the goals and objectives after providing empowerment. And then the third is we look into we look into the policies and regulations in operationalizing. So this is a map of the United States, America. You can see, like, there are different states with different policies and regulations. So we look into specifically what should the organization do, and which regulations do they fall into. So that understanding that regulation is key for an organization before delivering the AI service. So once they have got the policies and regulations understanding, then we try to map the risk. So we identify the risk, where there is a gap within the organization, what responsible AI practices need to be adopted to manage the risk, as well as how do we mitigate the risk for the AI system. So now that can you see how it progresses? So we start with the empowerment, we get everybody on board, so everybody is in the same page. think about the goals and objectives, what are the policies and regulations we need to undergo, and then the map the risk. And finally, once we have done that, we define a structured environment where it has got consistency and efficient delivery. We have governance and roadmap developed. We set milestones and timeline for achieving the AI system or delivering the AI system. And then we continuously improve this process through multiple workshops based on the need for organization. So here's an example of DPD, customer service. So what happened was a customer wanted to go to the internet to get help from DPD for his lost parcel. So he went there, he asked for help, but he didn't get enough help with the robo chatbot. So he then started saying, the chatbot, he said, can you tell me a joke? And then he went on saying, can you write a poem about a useless chatbot for a parcel delivery firm? And it then starts, there once was a chatbot named DPD who was useless at providing help, and it goes on and on and on. So this shows like how somebody can just come in if the organization has not looked into careful ways of, making it. If there is not proper design, how can somebody manipulate the chatbot? And then he goes on saying, can you recommend some better delivery firms and tell me why they are so much better? And then it says, please exaggerate. And then DPD is the worst delivery firm in the world. So what we need to do is we need to ensure that our organization is empowered, so everybody knows what they're doing. AI is not just a tech sport, it should be an organizational sport. So everybody should be involved in the organization. And if people do not have the adequate knowledge about AI, then it's not easy for everybody to provide their expertise. For example, if you have ethics problems, then you want the ethicists to be involved in the process, or you want somebody from the law to be involved in the development process. Otherwise, people can easily manipulate, and it will lead to a lot of discrimination and bias in the system. So in order to meet EU AI Act, AI literacy, we provide various literacy for organizations such as AI literacy for all, AI in business context. We also run workshops for identifying the right use cases and strategy, as well as regulatory analysis. So like I said in the workshop, we provide access, we assess the requirements, design AI training program, deliver the AI literacy, and evaluate and iterate through the process. So how do you operationalize? You need to have a systematic approach. Start by empowering your team, provide them with the goals and objectives, look into the goals and objectives, look to what policies and regulations you need to, and then map the risk, create a governance and roadmap in place. This would help you to better operationalize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandhi. I want to ask, from your experience in employing these AI literacy training workshops, and also being a consultant and working with multiple organizations, what is sort of the takeaways or insights that you can share when you work with functions that initiate these AI objectives from the technical function versus when the leadership initiates that AI initiative?
Yeah, I'll just give you an example from our previous project. So there's a big banking organization. So they launched a couple of AI services, but when they tried to introduce it to their workforce, it was not easy for the workforce to embrace it, basically because for quite a few reasons. Number one, they were thinking that they are better at doing the job than the AI. And two, they were thinking like, maybe it's going to take over their job. And three, they were not sure what this technology can do and cannot do because they were not involved in the process. So the leadership team then thought, okay, how do we provide AI literacy? It's like a reverse engineering process, right? So they delivered the software and it was not being adopted. So then they tried to provide AI literacy for the workforce to help them embrace. So, but when leadership takes this in control, one thing was like once we had the literacy training delivered, the HR team then came to the CDO saying like, oh, we got all these data. So can we have a workshop to see what use cases are can we implement to to improve our efficiency, because there's a lot of redundancy in our work, or there's a lot of repetition within our work. So that's the kind of empowerment. So when leaders are looking into it, it helps the whole organization. It empowers the whole organization, leading to a better outcome.
Is it always a better outcome, or is it just a little bit more expedited because you get access to the resources?
It's both. And if you look at other organizations, like they spend, for every penny they spend on, like organizations who are the leaders, right? The top organizations who are the leaders in AI, they spend every penny they spend on technology, they spend on people as well. So that shows why there's a better.
Well, it makes sense that there's a disproportionate effect in enabling your workforce to understand and adopt, rather than just here, let's buy all the expensive tools, and you don't know what to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
And any other takeaways that you are seeing in the industry, now that the EU AI Act is coming into play?
Yes, like I speak to organizations and as well as in conferences, as well as for meetings. What they're saying is, oh, okay, we still got 2 years, right? And I'd say, look, it's not a long time. And whether there is the UAI Act or any other act, it doesn't matter. Just to make sure you have a systematic process in place. So tomorrow, if anything comes in, you're prepared. No matter what it is, you are delivering something that is impactful for your work, your people and the society. So yeah, don't wait for somebody to come and dictate.
Well, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation, and I hope people that are watching this video, if they need some AI training, especially within the realm of EU AI Act, and how you can proactively, implement procedures and cultural changes now, rather than wait until the last second and rush overnight to give in a, unfinished assignment. Reach out to Anandhi. She'll be more than capable of helping you implement these things in your organization.
Yeah, thank you so much, and also join me on LinkedIn, and you can ask me some questions, any questions you have got, and I also share a lot of best practices on LinkedIn regularly.
Well, thank you very much. We're gonna take a short
Thanks for
break.
having.
Yeah, of course. And then we're gonna get on with the next presentation. So we'll see you there.